Welcome to Conversations on Retail. My name is Matt Pfeiffer, and we are back with Steve Blair as he continues his series focused on leadership and culture. Today, Steve hosts Stacey Mason, founder of the Improv Lab. Just a couple of things to talk through before we get started. First of all, thank you so much to the sponsors of this series, our friends at West Rock Coffee, Cameron Smith and Associates. And we just picked up a brand new sponsor called Ventros this week. They are an anonymous, inclusive recruiting platform that helps firms make better hires faster and fairer. And you can check out each of those companies at the domain name posted below. Last thing I'll say before we turn it over to Steve, if you're joining us live, we hope that you will actively participate. This is intended to be a conversation and not a presentation. And so you can actively participate in this conversation by clicking on the Q&A button in Zoom and submitting your questions or comments in writing. We're so glad you're here. I'm going to turn it over to Steve and Stacy.
Welcome to Conversations on Leadership and Culture. My name is Steve Blair. And over the last, 30 years, but certainly the last 10, I have had the pleasure and honor of leading small organizations, fast-growing organizations, as they try to scale their people operations and their culture in a way that helps their culture remain healthy and actually become more healthy as they scale, which is often hard to do. And so I got the honor to do that at a local company here in Northwest Arkansas called the Harvest Group. And for the last 9 months, I have been trying to help lots of small companies, principled, passionate founders who understand the value of culture and are trying to scale quickly and do it in a way that's healthy. And so I've had a chance to meet and work with some really, really great companies, organizations, and people to help them bring their culture to life in a healthy way and to do that while they scale fast. And so that's a little bit about me, but this is Conversations on Leadership and Culture. It's part of the Conversations on Retail family. And this discussion today is similar to all of the other discussions in this series, which is we sit down with someone who has a really unique perspective or a unique opportunity or a unique lane to impact organizations, leadership, and culture. And I'm so excited to welcome my friend Stacey Mason. Stacy and I, well, maybe we'll get to that in a minute, like how long we've known each other. But Stacey's company is called Mason on Leadership. And she is a consultant and a coach. And part of what she does, and it's only part, is that she facilitates organizations, teams of people through the art and science of improv. And she's, as you see on the screen earlier, she is the founder of the Improv Lab here in Bentonville. They put on shows every so often to the public. I know I went to one of the more recent ones. And if you're looking for a place to get inspired and to laugh a little and to really think a lot about creativity and teamwork and collaboration, man, there's no better way to do that than with a seasoned improv coach and your team. And so that was just an unscheduled plug there, Stacy, for teams to come over to the lab and work. I know we did that at Harvest Group. So welcome to the conversation, Stacey Mason.
Thank you. I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you. As I have said on a lot of these episodes, sometimes the folks I invite on are in that hardcore CPG space. They're leaders on a supplier team. They're part of a retailer. Sometimes they're adjacent, whether that's a service agency or an advertising firm. And then sometimes I have folks that really aren't in that world per se, but they can help people in that world and they can help any team. Well, Stacey's unique in that she was in that world for a while, for a pretty good time, specifically at Walmart. And her most recent role at Walmart was leading leadership and development in varying capacities within Walmart. And then how many years ago did you break out on your own?
Oh, I left in 2008.
Okay.
Left in 2008.
Man,
that's been a while.
So that had to be a big decision. Like you're at Walmart, the Fortune 1 world's largest retailer at the time, Fortune 1.
Yeah.
What drove that decision?
Well, we joke about it at the house, although it's not funny at all, that you should quit your really great job at the height of the recession. Not a good plan. And we both did that at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
But I think we were tired. And so I was specifically tired. Walmart is a machine and the expectations are high, and rightly so. And I think I just wore myself out.
Yeah.
So it was a good time to say, what am I going to do next?
Yeah. So improv may not have been next. I think
Yeah.
the Mason on Leadership was next.
Yeah.
When did improv become part of Stacy's story?
Yeah. That's a good question. And I think it was in 2009. 2009 was a really hard year for me. When I left Walmart, I wasn't in a good place. I needed to revive myself.
Okay.
And so I randomly took a class in 2009, which was the start of all this. And it's the craziest thing.
No way. I did not know this story.
Yeah, random. And to this day, people ask me, it's a question I get all the time. Well, what made you do this? I have no idea why I signed up for that class.
That's awesome.
And so, it's one of those, you just never know what's going to happen when you do a thing that you weren't even expecting to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My goodness. I mean, I would have assumed, I did not know that story. I would have assumed that as a kid in college or high school or whatever, you were in theater and you had this bug. Cause I mean, people that know you now and know you in the context of improv, you're an OG. Like you
I don't know.
No, I mean,
yeah.
Those of us that have had a chance to see troops perform and team building coaches come in and lead teams through improv. Like I would have just absolutely bet lunch today that you have a long history in improv and you literally signed up for a class and you don't remember why you can't tell why you signed up.
No, I have no theater. Well, as a kid, I was in one play. It was a community play. It was Snow White. And the only reason I was in the play was I was a bear. And because I was a gymnast, and they needed someone to cartwheel across the stage. And I was like, oh, I got that. I mean, I had no lines. Awesome. And so that's my only theater. Awesome. Improv was just a complete one-off. And I think I was looking for something humorous. Mm-hmm. And I, for some reason, I thought maybe it was going to be funny, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it.
Yeah.
And it was, I tell people, and it's a true story. The first class I ever took, I tried to sneak out the bathroom on first break. I tried to sneak out the bathroom window on first break. I stood there and I measured myself and the window.
Way.
Yeah. And I would have been gone. My purse and my car keys were in the other room. And so I had to come back. It was so,
oh my gosh,
it was so hard and it was so fast and the people were so not like me. Mm-hmm. And it was overwhelming.
It's intimidating if you're around people that are really good at it.
Yeah.
It's intimidating for sure.
Yeah.
And that was a class.
And that was a class.
To be intimidating.
No, it was intended to be fun. And here are the basics and let's do some stuff. And I was completely overwhelmed. Well,
it's interesting. I bet that played into how you now coach teams, because I can tell you, I've been to 3 or 4 of your we had Stacy lead 3 or 4 sessions for teams I've been a part of. And not only have I never felt intimidated, you've gone out of your way to make every person in the room feel like they can contribute in a safe way, in a healthy way.
Yeah. And that was my big learning is if I'm going to use this in the way that I intended to use it, how do you make the introvert feel safe? Mm-hmm. And because I'm a high introvert. So how do you make the introvert feel welcome, which in turn will make the extrovert feel fine? And then how do you crawl before you run? Mm-hmm. And so all of my work now is structured where you feel fine and you just sort of dip your toe in and you get going. And then you're full on doing improv before you know it.
Yeah.
But it is specifically designed to go slow, to go fast.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to come back to improv here in a second, but I do want to get back to some of the questions I like to ask everyone, because part of what I love about this series is I have certain questions that I ask all of my guests because I really like to watch the trends over time and to listen to the different perspectives to the same question. And so I've got 2 I want to ask you right up front. One of them is this word culture is, I think it might even be approaching cliche or approaching to the point where we need a new word for it. But a lot of people talk about culture and specifically in the context of not culture as in arts, but culture as in an organization. Everybody has their own definition. Do you have a working definition, or do you have a favorite definition, or do you have a favorite perspective about culture?
And I usually can answer that question in two ways. The short answer is I describe culture as the way we do things here.
Yep.
And it's simple.
Yep.
And it's plain. If I'm in an academic setting and we're talking about it in sort of a different construct, I typically say culture exists on a continuum between the best behaviors you promote and the worst behaviors you permit.
Yeah.
And so, and even I can shorten that and say, if you permit it, you promote it. But it's cleanest just to say, this is how we do things here.
Yeah. No, I love it. The one I've heard a lot is that culture is what you tolerate, which is exactly what you just talked about. The permit equals promote. I won't go through all my favorites because I do it on every episode, but I've really been thinking about this because I don't have one I like myself yet. I have one that I've latched onto, which is culture is that feeling in your stomach and your gut on Sunday night about Monday morning. It was Bob Markline, I think, is the original creditor of that. I've been thinking about it a lot. I think it's how every individual experiences the feeling of belonging in a place or with a group of people or both. And that's a terrible long, I need to wordsmith it.
Yeah.
But what I like about it, and I always try to latch on to keywords that people say, individual, that's probably the new thing for me is I've come to believe that the culture of an organization isn't a singular, the culture, and it applies to the 500 people that are there. I think culture is how Susan experiences that at that organization, because that's Susan's perspective. That's her experience with the culture, which is different than Dave, which is different than anybody else on the team. And so I guess that's my current pushback on myself is it's individualized. It's not like what you can't define an organization's culture that applies to everyone equally because everybody experiences it in different ways. And that could come down to what degree do I feel like I'm heard, seen, and known here. That doesn't mean if you're not, that doesn't mean there isn't a culture. It just means it's a different culture than somebody who is seen, felt, heard, all that stuff. Okay, so that's culture. You've worked for Walmart and you've run your own organization. Can you think of the earliest time you can remember that you experienced a culture and realized, oh, this is culture? Like, this is what they mean when they say culture.
Yeah. Excuse me. I think I have a Walmart story. And you have to remember, when I graduated from college, I went straight to Walmart. So, I mean, I literally grew up at Walmart. Yeah. I started when I was 25, left in my 40s. And so the amount that you learn at that organization is vast. But I remember early on, and I started in the field in distribution network.
Oh, wow.
In Texas. And the open door policy is a part of the Walmart culture. Yep. And the open door policy basically means I, as the individual, as the associate, can talk to any member of management, from where I am up until the CEO, if I have a concern, and I have permission to do that. What I noticed about that policy was there would be people that would come back, associates would say, well, the open door doesn't work. I used it and the open door doesn't work.
Because they didn't get what they wanted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when you break it down, that's exactly what happened. The associate didn't get their way. And so they equated that to the process doesn't work.
Yeah.
And what we didn't do as good a job with, I don't think that at Walmart and has since probably done much better, is we didn't explain what we meant when we said it.
Yeah.
And the open door it's an avenue for your voice to be heard. It's not a chance for you to get what you want.
Yeah.
And I remember that being a very pivotal moment it's fine if we say all these things that we are and what we stand for and what we believe in, but you've got to tell me what that means when you say that.
Yes.
You can't just say, here's the rule or here's the policy or here's whatever. You've got to break it down. Give me an example and specifically tell me what that means when you say those words to me.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. And that's actually I'm going to jump down earlier than I planned in the conversation. Values, organizational values play a big part also in the culture of an organization. The model that I've tried to use with my clients, the DNA of the organization is the first component of an organization's culture. And that to me is made up of the mission of the organization, the vision of the organization, the values of the organization, and the stories that they tell about those things.
Right.
So if you think about values in particular, you just said with the open door policy example is you have to explain to me what that means. And so one of the things that I have really come to appreciate, and we did this at Harvest Group, which is really the first time I feel like I remember doing it in an organization. And now I try to help all of my clients think about doing that, which is it's okay to have a value called excellence, but you've got to put words, and it's bonus points if it's a person's voice behind what does that mean here. To your point, open door policy, it sounds great to say to people, but unless you describe what that means, here at Walmart, we have a culture where you have an avenue to be heard. You have an avenue to share concerns. You should never feel limited in the opportunity to share concern.
Correct.
That would be really helpful in the handbook, or on the plaque in the conference room, even though we know that's not where.
Should have even gone on to say, you may not get your way. I mean, let's just tell it like it is. You may not get your way. And that's why it's not designed to.
Right.
It's designed for us to have a dialogue about the thing that you're concerned about.
Yeah. Be heard.
Be heard. It's designed for you to be heard. And I just think we should be upfront with what we mean when we say something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I come from the supplier side of that equation, and Walmart has the same open door policy on the supplier community. And I think it's pretty widely accepted that doesn't mean you're going to get what you want. But it also doesn't mean that you better not burn that bridge. That's not what it is at all.
That's not what it is.
But I think maybe suppliers have a better idea that I'm probably not going to be guaranteed I'm going to get what I want, but I'm going to get to say what I need to say.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to hear me. And if it is the right thing to do, then I believe Walmart will do the right thing. I've used open door twice in my career on the merchandising side of the house. Once they changed the decision, and once they didn't.
Yeah.
And I didn't go in assuming I'd get the decision changed both times. And I shouldn't have gotten it changed on the one because it didn't deserve to be changed. But the one they did change, they did the right thing. They heard me.
Well, and here's also they're gathering data. You said it, who else said it, and 10 more people said it, and 30 more people said it. Okay, maybe we need to look more closely at that.
Yeah.
You're part of the process.
And that may have been how Open Door became a value there, because it may have been a concept that Mr. Sam put in place, but once they did it 100 times and, it got traction.
Well, and let's also not put it in the light where it's always, I've been wronged and I need you to know it. Maybe it's, I've got a great idea. Have we ever thought of this?
Yeah.
Here's something we ought to investigate or try or test or whatever. Do we know about this? It's not always.
That's a great caveat.
It's not always. I feel like I've been overlooked or I missed something or something.
Yeah. That's a good.
Yeah.
That's a good clarification.
Yeah.
There. That's really good. Okay. I warned you we were going to do this. I think of every improv experience I've ever had, at some point early on, they talk about yes and. That's a fairly common improv term, improv concept. Tell us what that is. And then I would love to understand an application of yes and for a team. Because a lot of people that come to you aren't just people coming to have fun. They're coming.
Yeah.
In
it's
fact,
serious.
Your main business is come so I can help you as a team learn how to collaborate, learn how to communicate. So what is yes and can you give us an example of a time when it applied to a team dynamic?
Yeah. Yes. And basically what it means is you and I are agreeing to a shared reality. is what yes and means.
Okay.
So you and I are going to agree to a shared reality, and the and just means I'm going to throw something else interesting in there to make it fun and compelling for an audience to watch is basically what it means. But what you're really doing when you're co-creating or co-collaborating is you're setting aside a few differences and you're meeting in the middle. And so what is it that you're going to discover, or what will you create if you both are bringing sort of this positive, thoughtful energy to the table?
Yeah.
But we live in an environment where there's a lot of pushback. No, you can't have more headcount. No, you can't have an increase. No, you can't, I poke fun. No, you can't have a better rolly chair.
No, you can't work from home.
Exactly. No, you can't, whatever. And so what would the conversation look like if both of us came in with a yes viewpoint and we just figured out how to, again, co-create, co-collaborate, meet in the middle, and design something we didn't have before?
Yeah. The phrase that I did not connect this until literally just now when you were describing that, a phrase that I have loved when I'm trying to get creative ideas on the table or difficult ideas to come to life is the question, what would have to be true if? Is that, do I have that right? Would that be a cousin to yes and?
It would be a cousin to yes and.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, yes and is basically what happens on the stage. Two actors come up and they're going to be in a scene. And if one of you starts the scene and says, that we're shoplifting at the mall, you know what we're doing? We're shoplifting at the mall, and you need to get on board with what that looks like.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you're for it or against it. Maybe you're combative or you're, that's the most genius thing you've heard, but you're both at the mall and you're contemplating shoplifting.
Right.
And so you've agreed that this is
That's
setting.
the reality.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
And we're going to figure out how to make it interesting, because maybe one of you is just a little Miss Goody Two Shoes and, you've never done anything outside the lines. So what would you look like if you were attempting to be, dishonest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or one of you is in a stroller.
Exactly. Or one of you. Exactly.
What would have to be true for a baby in a stroller to shoplift in a mall?
Exactly.
I love it. That's so funny. I
Yeah.
love it. I cut you off though.
No,
second half of that question. Can you give us an example or tell us a story about a time when a light bulb went off for a team? Yes. And
I don't know if I have a particular story for that. I think what people notice when we have the conversation is how often they're disagreeable versus how often they're agreeable. And you'll notice it right away on stage, because in the example I gave of my partner says, well, I've never been to the mall. Well, what do you do with that then? And so what will you be doing at work? Are you continually, pushing back and not engaging, or what will happen if this was true?
Yeah.
And it's a mindset shift is all you're doing.
Yeah.
But you also have to say, I'm going to set down my agenda, and people love their agenda.
Yeah.
And that's really problematic.
They're
control. I love
hard.
control. Humans love control. And this is my agenda. So for me to set it down and say, I think your idea is better, that's a little dicey.
Yeah.
It's a little dicey.
Huh. I will tell you, I have seen this concept play out recently with one of my clients, and I promise this is not a sponsored bit, but Grazi is a consumer sampling company here in Rogers, and they have a business practice. So they're in the business of helping brands connect with their targeted consumers in unique, fun ways, whether it's in store, in their home, in a parking lot of a Walmart store. They have an aspect of their business operation where they have a potential client or a client, and they're ready to pitch an idea. And the client has said, hey, we want to market this new flavor of whatever it is we have. Bring us an idea for a compelling sampling event behind that. The company, there's an all hands company meeting. Everybody that's working that day and is available is either in the room or on Teams. And they have a brainstorm session about that brand, that activity, whatever.
Yeah.
And here's what's crazy. the creativity that comes into that meeting from everyone, from the gentleman who's writing code to the gal who's doing graphic design to the individual that leads events, like the ideas are incredible. And what they try to do is they try to come up with at least 3 very different ideas. And these are my words, on increasing levels of crazy, right? Like increasing levels of remarkable, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, here's what's crazy about that. That whole thing is a yes and. Like somebody will say, hey, we need to do this. And it goes, yeah, but what if we also did this? And what if we added this? And at the end, you've got this idea that's really out there.
Yeah.
So here's how crazy that is. That is a part of the company's DNA that they do that meeting. And they actually have a value. They call them mantras at Grazie, but they have a value that reflects something that happened in that meeting one time. I think I have the story right. Bethany, please don't kill me if I have it wrong. But they're having this discussion. They're going through the motions of coming up with crazy ideas. And at some point, somebody throws on the table, what if we got a Ferris wheel? Like a what wheel, if we went and got a Ferris wheel and put it in this event?
Yeah.
And so now one of their mantras, and I'm going to get the words wrong, but one of the mantras is, but what if we could get a Ferris wheel? Or, I think the mantra is, why do basic when you can have a Ferris wheel? And so guess what? That every new hire that comes into the company at some point is going to say, what's the deal with the Ferris wheel?
Yeah.
You're going to, let me tell you the story about the Ferris wheel. We were in a brainstorm meeting. We were coming up with ideas for a client.
Yeah. Now it's sticky. Yeah.
So right there, that's like yes and in a company setting that ultimately informed a value or a mantra that organization operates under.
I love that. Yeah.
And it's a story you tell. In onboarding, it's a story. It's a story you count over happy hour with the client.
Yep.
That almost got a Ferris wheel or maybe did get a Ferris wheel, right?
I love that.
That's crazy.
That's a great story.
So you've worked with a ton of organizations, small teams, large companies. You've gone to people's national meetings and led 300 people through improv. What's the largest crowd you've ever facilitated an improv exercise with?
Oh, that's a good question.
1,000?
Oh, it'd be a little under 1,000, maybe 500.
Yeah.
Maybe 500. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my point is, you've worked with one of my teams that had 5 people and you've done 1,000 in a ballroom of a hotel or probably.
Yeah.
Are there common threads of when light bulbs go off for people, for, business leaders that don't think they're very creative, that don't think they're funny, that think they're introverted? Is there a moment in time? Is there a concept? Is there a team dynamic that you see happen that then light bulbs go off?
Yeah, I don't think it's not like a particular game or a drill. It's more the whole experience. And what happens is you are stepping out of what you do every day. Mm-hmm. And you are coming into this space, this non-traditional art form that you either have never done or would rarely do.
And by the way, every other person in the room is also stepping out of the day-to-day business.
Yeah. It's equally wonky for everyone, which is a great equalizer.
Yeah.
But I think it's the fact that I have turned off my work brain and I've turned on a different portion of my brain that I have the epiphany or the aha moment, or I have the insight that I wouldn't have had before if I'd had my head down at my desk doing my stuff.
Yeah.
That's the win.
So what brain do you think, is it turning on their play brain? Is it turning on their creativity brain? Is it turning on their low inhibition brain?
Well, it's a couple of things. When you play, you forget to self-monitor. And when you forget to
self-monitor, even when I'm like at my computer.
I forget too when I'm at home alone. Yeah. But when you play, you forget to self-monitor. And when you forget to self-monitor, you see a different version of yourself, and so do other people. And now it's the interaction where I'm being a little bit more unguarded, and I'm maybe I'm differently authentic that puts you down a path you wouldn't have gone on before.
Mm-hmm.
Plato is quoted as saying, you can learn more about a person in an hour of play than in a year of conversation. It just changes your chemistry and you come alive in ways you would not have come alive before.
And that goes both ways. Like you come alive differently and you feel that in you, but you see Jack, who's the accountant, completely come alive in a different way than you're used to experiencing the accounting team.
And what's really funny about that is and it's not funny at all, we stereotype. And so what is the accountant? It's all buttoned up. You can't be creative, and certainly not with the numbers, but so they're pretty strict. Or an engineer can't deviate from the plan or whatever, or lawyers are, hardcore, whatever your thought is. When they become human, which we all are, you see them being human. And that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And I've been in a room with a couple of 100 engineers before, and I've told people that and they cringe. I go, it's one of the best experiences I've ever had. Ever. It was
you unlock those brains.
Yeah. It was Schneider Electric. We were in Fort Worth, and we did 4 hours together, and it was the most magical session.
Wow.
And they were just being themselves. Sure, their day job is engineering, whatever that means. But in that room doing improv, they were not engineers.
How long did it take of the 4 hours? How long did it take to get them to turn on their play brain?
Probably about 45 minutes.
Okay. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't quick, but it didn't take half the time.
To get over, this is wonky. This is Bobby looking at me. What's happening? There's this moment, and then you just get into it and you forget that you're supposed to be buttoned up or appropriate or whatever it is that you think you should be.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's literally crazy.
Wow.
To be honest, it's one of the reasons I love improv. You think about it. I'm super structured. I'm a high introvert. No, I need a plan.
Definition of introvert, right?
No, I need a plan. I am like, I have never met a spreadsheet I didn't love. I am super methodical. I started doing improv for myself because it's a place I can go to stop being me. All of those things are hard. It's hard to be introverted. It's hard to be structured. It's hard to pay attention all the time. I live in my head. And so to go to improv and not be those things was euphoric, was so euphoric. And that was when I fell in love with it. That was before I said, oh my gosh, this is going to work for big business.
Yeah. All right. 2-part question.
Yeah.
I didn't know you called them drills, by the way. I thought they were games or exercises.
Drills, games, exercises. Drill.
What is one drill that seems to be really effective with teams, with like work teams?
Yeah. And it's super easy. And people struggle with this so much. It's
in the moment, in the drill?
They struggle. I tell them we're going to do it for 2 minutes and they look at me like I said, we're going to be here for 6 days. The exercise or the drill is called What's Not Wrong with Your Life? What's not wrong with your life? And what happens is one person asks their partner, what's not wrong with your life? And that person has to answer with something not wrong in their life. And then as soon as you answer, I ask you again, what's not wrong with your life? What's not wrong with your life? What's not wrong with your life? And I'm looking for things like, well, I got a new toothbrush this week and it's sunny outside and my shoes are tied and, little things that are not wrong in your life. But you would be surprised the number of people that say, oh my God, 2 minutes, I ran out of stuff to say. And I go like, first world country. And you ran out of stuff to say. How is that possible? Two things happen. We're thinking too big. And I tell people, you didn't solve world hunger. No one cured cancer.
I'm guessing some people on the first or second time, they're like, I don't have cancer.
Yeah. Or I got a new job, or, I'm paying for my kids' college. And those are great things. But we're talking about the simple things that you overlook. But when you start to unpack the game, what happens is we overly index on what's wrong. We overly index on the things that are not right. And there's a reason why the question is structured the way it is.
If you ask what's broken in your life, that would be a whole
boom, boom. You have a litany, you have a list. You can start. Man. Well, people show up, we missed the mark. We didn't hit a number. We didn't execute, blah, blah, blah. And literally you could write an entire script of what's wrong, but flip the script and go, what's not wrong? and look for things that are right. I tell people the list of stuff you need to work on is never going away, like ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But why don't you at least start with the things that are right? Just a couple of things.
Yeah.
So think of a merchant that goes into a store and you're looking at your category, your fine line, and you're going, I wish. Well, what if you'd have walked in and said, you know what, the lights are on in the store and I was greeted well.
Yeah.
And I have a shopping cart and lots of things are right.
Yeah.
It's just, we go to the dark side.
You know, it's interesting. I think it's even been on this, I don't know if it's a podcast, this conversation, an earlier episode, we talked about Mr. Sam's story in the book of, I believe it was an executive coming to town that he was interviewing to work at Walmart. And they went and walked the Kmart store together. And they didn't talk during the walk. They get out in the parking lot and Mr. Sam says, so what'd you see? And the guy starts rattling off all the things that Kmart did wrong in that store. And Mr. Sam's like, yeah, but did you see how they merchandised
the hosiery,
the ironing board pads?
Yeah.
Did you see how they merchandised?
Yeah.
Did you see how in stock they were?
Yeah.
The same concept, right?
Same concept.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe you take that to life, you know, you get what you look for. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to go deep.
No,
but
all of a sudden. All right. So that's an exercise that is most effective. That's an exercise that you've seen work for people. What is the most hilarious exercise for other people to have to do? Oh, I know I didn't tell you I was going to ask that question.
The most hilarious for other people to have to do.
You get giddy when you get to say, here's what we're about to do, because you know it's going to be hilarious.
Well, I guess it depends. Is it people that have done improv before? Like, is it a show game?
Not pros.
Okay.
No.
Wow, that's a good question. It's probably a toss up between emotional greetings and Foursquare. Foursquare is it's a pivotal game, but I think emotional greetings is you're going to pair up with different people in the room repetitively. You're going to rotate. Okay. But these are the rules. Every time you get a new partner, I'm going to tell you what you're going to talk about. And then I'm going to tell you a persona that you're going to have the conversation in.
It's emotional greetings.
Yeah, okay. Emotional greetings. And so I might say, okay, here's your first partner. You're going to talk about books, but I want you to act as if you're shy and quiet and reserved. And then, you know, and everybody tries to emulate what they think shy, quiet, and reserved. Stereotype. Yeah. And then we talk about your favorite food. Now do it extroverted. And do a lot of physicality, a lot of gesturing. And then, you know, we talk about your work and use all your fancy language. And, I mean, you'd be surprised. People love their language. The way
you said that was a little concerning. Talk about your fancy language.
People love their language. And then, you know, we do it. Okay, here's one you're going to talk about bad drivers and be angry. Or, you know, and I give them a litany of things. Yeah. And then basically what we're talking about is borrowing behaviors. It moves you into a conversation about, do you know how to meet people where they are and talk to me in a voice that I can hear? So if you're overly animated and you're talking to someone who's a little more reserved, can you dial it back a little? Or vice versa.
Yeah.
Or
can you adjust
to
the situation
on the fly?
Yeah.
But are you paying attention enough to even pick up on the fact that there's a disconnect?
Yeah. You won't have Stacey Mason telling you. Yeah,
exactly. You got to put it all together.
To adjust. Yeah.
Yeah. And particularly with the fancy language, people go, you know, that person, it might be, they intuit that to be, well, that person is narcissistic. They're talking about themselves and their stuff. I go, maybe they just feel good and they feel put together if they use language that they know.
Yeah. Or it gives them confidence.
It gives them confidence. Yeah. And they're just trying to live in the space where they feel most comfortable. And maybe that's a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at that person and we're coming up with the wrong answer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I had a 2-part question to that. Most fun. Okay. I think I answered it.
Okay.
How I'm a team lead I didn't have to be in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
I'm a team lead. I'm a supplier team lead, or I lead a dental practice in Fort Smith. I lead people. what is something you'd recommend they do that you offer? And then how do they get in contact with you to set that up?
Yeah. Well, let's do the easy part first. I have two websites, masononleadership.com, theimprov.lab.com, or masononleadership@gmail.com or gmail.com.
Yeah.
So you can reach out anyway. Here's what I do when someone calls me, and I work backwards. And so I have them explain to me, why have you called me? What is happening? What do you want to work on? What's the competency that we're trying to address? And then I build backwards so that I do games, activities, drills, exercises that puts us in a place to have that conversation to strengthen the thing that they're trying to work on. And so I need that conversation about what do you wish you were better at? Where are we coming up short? What do we need to look at ourselves or the business differently?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's the dental office, Walmart, Saatchi and Saatchi X. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And the answer, your default answer isn't going to be improv.
No,
right?
not necessarily. Yeah. We may need to do a series of behavioral assessments. Maybe we need to do a team Birkman and look at how we're wired. Maybe we don't have a good understanding of how each of us come to work individually. Yeah. It's not always improv.
Yeah.
Improv is useful in a lot of ways, but that's not always the answer.
Yeah. Useful and fun.
And fun.
And as you and I have talked, Harvest has used it for fun a lot.
Yeah.
For team building.
Harvest Group is one of the only organizations that I work with where your people come and they show up and they can do full-on performance games like 10 minutes after they walk in the door.
Well, that's because Mark Stamps is usually in the group.
Well, I think it goes to the culture. I think it goes to the freeness and the camaraderie and the bonding and the exuberance. And we need very little runway to warm up, and they're like boom into the game.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I've got my one last question, and then I think we're going to look to see if anybody has questions in the group. And if you're wondering whether you should ask a question, get over it and ask the question. Come on
Maybe
into
the weirder, the better.
Come on into the chat or the Q&A and ask a question. But I like to ask everybody on the show this question. I'm a huge music fan. Music is a big part of my life. Songs are important to me. If you could pick a song that would capture the essence of whether it's Stacey Mason or Mason on leadership or culture of the culture you try to cultivate in the organization, like what's a song that catches the essence or the personality that makes you?
Yeah. And I know the answer to this question, but you realize when you asked me this is like asking a parent, which is your favorite kid.
Sure.
I mean, I love music too. I'm also old school.
Yeah. I love it.
All my brothers and sisters are a lot older than me. I'm a throwback. So in the 70s, Casey and the Sunshine Band, Keep It Comin' Love.
Okay.
That's the song. And oftentimes I'll play that in the car, like before I'm going to a gig.
So that's your pump-up song. No, I'm serious.
It is.
One of the cultural things that I've tried to do at every company I've been there for 15 years is get everybody to tell me what their pump-up song is so that 2 years down the road, they forgot they gave me their pump-up song and they get to speak at a meeting and the song I play when they walk up on stage is their pump-up song. Yeah.
Well, it's, the lyrics are easy. They're repetitive. It states it what it is in the title.
It's
love.
It's poppy.
You can dance to it.
Moves.
Yeah. It's good. You can do it in the car. It's great.
I love it. All right. Looks like we have a comment. Okay. Any questions from anybody out in the world? That's okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to wrap us up. One thing I would love for people that are listening to take away from this, a lot of things I want you to take away from what Stacy said, but here's one I want to challenge you with. As a leader, try the yes and experience with your team. And try the what's going right in your life.
What's not wrong. What's not wrong with your life?
What's not wrong? Okay.
Yep.
Seriously, at your next meeting where you needed an icebreaker, whatever, play the what's not wrong with your life and see if, and facilitate that. Like, it takes some good facilitation, but capture what's happening with the responses and take it where it needs to go. Like, if folks immediately go to, my car started this morning, that's awesome. But if people go to, all the way down deep quickly, like the exercise should be, how many things can you get on a sheet of paper?
Right.
And maybe that could be the icebreakers.
Well, and I tell people, like, one of my examples when I demo the game is my tennis shoes. The bows of my tennis shoes are perfectly square. I mean, I set the bar low.
I love it.
And there are just so many things that are not wrong. Yeah. Set the bar.
When I left my bedroom this morning, the 2-gang box light switch, the screws that hold the plate on, were all going in the same direction.
Exactly. It's the little things.
And I bounced out of the house because of that. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for. Oh, wait a minute. We got a question, an actual question. Do you break out in teams or present to the crowd and ask for volunteers? Great question.
Oh, that is a good question. Do I break out in teams to present to the crowd? It depends on how large of an audience that I have. Most of the time, if I have a large audience, it's we do pair packs.
Yeah, one-on-one.
Yeah. We do pair packs, and I sort of debrief to them versus them chatting to me.
Either what you heard,
what I heard, what I saw, what probably happened. But when the group is small enough, which I love it both ways. But when the group is small enough, you tell me, and then let's talk about it. So we're teams. Yeah. Actually, and
depends on team size.
It depends on team size. And I tell you what, everybody's in. It's like, there's not volunteers. We're all doing it together. It's going to happen.
It's not one where I need 3 people to volunteer for this drill.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
And you, Annie, in at your own level. But we're all doing it together. Yeah. There's no watching.
We're all doing it at the same time.
Together.
Together. Yeah. But not together. And you're 50 people shouting out what's not wrong with their life.
Right. Yeah. You're in your pair pack.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Hey, I want to take a minute and call out the amazing team at Go Rogue X Studios here in Bentonville. They have been an amazing friend and partner to Conversations on Leadership and Culture and a whole lot of other people in the area. But this is where we film these episodes. Isaac is sitting right there running the board. He's amazing. Brian Fitton is the owner of this organization and the incredible leader that guides it. So if you're in the need for as simple as AV support, video editing, marketing, brainstorming, or if you want to try to do one of these shows, or your company wants to maybe highlight your founder in a discussion like this and maybe invite on clients or invite on other people, it's a great way to build a brand. And I would encourage you to check them out. So Go Rogue X Studios, thank you for always supporting Matt and I, Conversations on Retail, and specifically Conversations on Leadership and Culture. Be sure to check out other episodes of these conversations. They're at conversationsonretail.com. And then the section is Conversations on Leadership and Culture. And I hope you have a chance to try out some of the things that my friend Stacy talked about today. Stacy, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And we will see you all next time.